Okay, so now over the last few videos that you've been watching, assuming you've been watching the Introduction to UserForm playlist, I have talked about all of the properties, or the majority of the properties that you can set for a user form. And the reason behind doing so is because the properties that you set for a user form are going to be very similar to the properties that you can set up for the controls that we add to the user form. Controls will are pretty much made up of labels, text boxes, drop-down list or combo boxes, actual list box, checkmark, radio buttons, and so on. I'm going to give you a real quick introduction into these controls, but the main reason again behind showing all of the properties that I have covered in the last few videos for user forms is that way you can do the same thing to your controls in modifying their properties. So let me go ahead and finish up this playlist. That way you can begin working with these controls in more depth and in more detail. Because right now I'm not really showing any kind of programming, I'm only showing the introduction of user forms and getting started with them. So first off, you're going to be able to, when you have a user form set, we're going to be able to add a label, and that's going to be in your toolbox. If you don't see toolbox, simply do view and then toolbox. But here I'm drawing a label, and we can, again, you can modify the properties like I've showed in the previous videos. Like in this case caption, we can just put username as an example. And then next to our label, we can draw a text box. We can just draw it on the form, whether it be on the side of it or below it. In this case, I'm just going to put it below it. I'm going to put a text box. And you can just drag it on the form to your preference. If this is exactly where you want it, you can always modify the top property. Right now it's currently set at 24, so we just kind of want to bring it up just a little bit. We can change that to a 23. And it's going to be a subtle change, but that way you can still see it. Just pay attention to the text box. Once I hit enter, you'll see that text box scroll up just slightly. And if you want to bring it over to the left a little bit, right now let's say it's at 30, and let's say we put it at 35. Again, that box is going to move over to the right, and there you have it. So now we have a label and a text box. Let's say you don't want to have a text box, you want to have a combo box or a drop-down list. This will give you the ability to add items to the list, and your user will be able to select it. And then there's going to be a list box option. Then you'll be able to work with checkboxes or radio buttons, which you can assign into a group. Then you have a toggle button, you have frames, and then there's going to be your basic command button, some tab strips. This one you probably are not going to see on your toolbox. This is a control that I have added separately, the web browser control. If you're curious about that, you want to get started with the web browser control, feel free to look at my web browser VBA video. But in this case, we're not going to be working with the web browser control. That's a more advanced control. But for right now, I just wanted to conclude the introduction to user forms. Keep an eye out for the playlist that I will be creating. I will be creating playlists where I'm going to be talking about these various controls, how you can program these controls, and how you can work with them. That way you can begin creating lively forms for your users. I hope y'all enjoy this playlist and videos. Thank you for watching.